Welcome into another episode of the Giant Overreaction. I'm your host, Authentic. Big shout out to the gang in the building. Today is a very, very important day for the New York Giants. We're looking at episode 2 of the Hard Knocks presented by HBO, the Offseason with the New York Giants. And man, that first episode definitely did not disappoint. Tonight, episode 2 gets kicked off at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Don't get it twisted like we did last week. We saw the HBO guy giving us a lot of trouble. Some people didn't get a chance to see the episode. I'm going to continue to plug this throughout the whole entire show. Y'all know what it is. If you need the plug, there is a comment that is pinned to this video here right now. That's going to be the plug for you for tonight if you need the plug. Now, for those of y'all that are all charged up and ready to go, y'all won't need that. But big shout out to all of y'all for pulling up and rocking out with us today, man. I figured what a better way to kill some time than to get up here and talk a little bit about some New York Giants football, man. So big shout out to y'all. Y'all know what it is one time in the building. All right, so like I said, man, the last episode definitely did not disappoint. I know there were a lot of people that were extremely skeptical about what was going on as far as Hard Knocks and how much they were going to cover up and how much insight we were going to get and, you know, how in-depth this show was going to get and what they were going to be covering, because this is the first version of this offseason, presented by Hard Knocks and whatnot. So, you know, it was definitely a unexpected bag of stuff that we were going to get for this show. And then episode 1 came and definitely did not disappoint. We had hella quotables from that episode. Joe Schoen miscalculating, Saquon Barkley's value in the running back market, kind of not thinking that nobody was going to sign him. And then, eventually you get a division rival in the Philadelphia Eagles who say, hey, if you don't want to pay him that kind of money, we will pay him that money. There was even a quote from Joe Schoen saying that we did not pay the $40 million quarterback to hand it off to a $12 million running back. And the Philadelphia Eagles and Howie Roseman said, okay, well, our $50 million quarterback has no problem doing that. So Saquon goes over there, signs a 3-year deal. John Mara definitely did not want to see Saquon Barkley leave the New York Giants, and you could tell from that clip that was running around on episode 1. It was great to see that. I'm glad they put that in there, and upon further review, I did notice they edited that scene a little bit, but definitely giving us some, great insight and some good information that we would never be able to get otherwise, so big shout out to Hard Knocks, man. They're doing a fantastic job cooking up content that, I feel like we can't get from anywhere else. Now the NFL Films has not been, as frequent in making that kind of content like they used to back in my day. I'm an OG, 41 years old, and I can remember in the late 80s and the 90s, man, NFL Films was killing the game, and NFL Network is now a shell of itself. But that first episode definitely did not disappoint. I had a great time watching that. I'm super excited to get into this episode coming up tonight. Episode 2 should be really good. I thought another interesting thing going around was a lot of people pointing the finger at Tim McDonald, the executive for the New York Giants, who suggested, what is going to be the identity for the New York Giants when, Saquon Barkley is no longer on this team. And some people kind of thought that was a stupid question. I did get a chance to listen to Mike Lombardi on the GM Shuffle podcast, and he had some great things to say about it, all with respect for the New York Giants, who he said he learned a lot from. But he is just as puzzled as I am with the way that this front office has been operating so far. And I do think the timing was kind of strange with Saquon Barkley. So, the New York Giants have to find a way to get a new identity. And they're working on that now, drafting guys like Malik Neighbors and trying to replace some of these weapons that we're losing and some of these key players that we lost to free agency this past year. So I like what Joe Schoen has done so far. I'm patient enough to at least give him the, till the end of this year before I, start coming for people's heads and whatnot and calling for jobs and whatnot. But I do think they're doing a pretty decent job, especially taking the roster from where they were at pre-free agency to where they are at right now. I do think that with this Hard Knock situation, they probably didn't think they were going to get this amount of unwarranted attention in the media, because all week, that's all we saw, on every show, on all the major networks, every podcast, even here within the New York Giants community, all you see is people doing reviews of Hard Knocks. And I like it. It was a good abundance of content. It's great to see my team, in the news, in the headlines. That's cool, but sometimes for all the wrong reasons. So I do think that this is a bit of a distraction, and maybe Joe Schoen and them thought with the process that they were going through as far as, digging into scouting, which I hear they're going to talk a lot about tonight, and digging into, player development, things like that. That stuff really doesn't, put the New York Giants franchise under the microscope the way that some of these comments were put under the microscope during some of these shows. Tonight, I'm expecting a lot more from, the perspective of Brian Daboll, Art Stapleton did give a couple of clues. He said that he saw the screening of episode 2. He said this is exactly what, people are wanting from this kind of a series from the New York Giants and what people should expect. His exact quote was, "Expect this episode to provide more insight into the process and how things mesh between scouts, personnel, and the coaches. This one truly hits on what I believe was the intention of the series and why the New York Giants agreed to do it in the first place." And Episode 2's trailer came out today. They gave a different clip that's running around on social media. I did repost that to my Twitter, and I did want to share it with y'all here. Kind of got a blurred up, butchered a little bit, but it was featuring a quarterback for the Commanders that was drafted with the number 2 pick overall, Jayden Daniels. So let's get into this clip, and then we can talk a little bit about what we expect to see on Hard Knocks Episode 2 tonight.
Hey Jay, erase that Z, make him the F. Erase the X and make him the Z. Erase the W, make him the X. Erase the T and make him the H. Ready?
Yep.
Gun trolley right, 64 house X in. Give it back to me. Nope, don't look at it.
Oh, you want me?
Give it back to me how we call it.
The whole play?
Yeah.
Gun trolley right, house FN,
Okay, X in.
X in.
That's okay. And then if it's cover 1, what do we want you to do? Probably.
Throw a touchdown.
All right, I like that answer.
Interesting clip from Commanders' new quarterback, Jayden Daniels. Very witty, very funny. I do think they kind of caught him off guard there. And I noticed a little bit of an edit on that one as well, too. But I think Jayden Daniels is definitely in a good position with the Washington Commanders, who are in a rebuild. New ownership, new coaches across the board, new quarterback, and I just think like Washington is set up for some success. Whether it'll happen this season or not is the real big question. But nonetheless, a really good clip there. And I do think it was a pretty good play design there. They were talking about like a slot fade and whatnot. There was a little bit of a backside dig there, and Jayden Daniels' response is, score a touchdown. And I think he's right on that. If you didn't get a chance to see him at LSU, this kid was absolutely electric, okay? And they killed it from the fade, running that 9 route. That was one of their bread and butter type of plays from the slot and from the outside with Malik Neighbors. And, I just think that if he can see some of that type of scheme, we'll say, which is going to be a big question mark with Cliff Kingsbury over there in Washington. We know that he's had trouble adapting to the new age modern NFL passing game, likes to run a lot of 2x2 sets, 4 wide receivers and stuff like that. But I think that if he can make the adjustment and set Jayden Daniels up for success, Jayden Daniels will come out in this league. He's got all the playmaking ability to be a great player. And when we do get off into some of these giant overreactions, I'm going to definitely talk about that. I think the question marks around Jayden Daniels are, can he do it without the elite wide receiver talent that he had over there at LSU with Brian Thomas Jr. and Malik Neighbors? I mean, those guys were both considered, first-round type of prospects. I think Brian Thomas went either early in the second round. He might have went late first round. I can't remember where he went. But the question is, is he going to be able to succeed with what they got over there in Washington with Terry McLaurin out there and Jahan Dotson out there? They also drafted McCaffrey's brother to come in and play slot as well. But, the kid Jayden Daniels, he won the Heisman for a reason, okay? You can sleep if you want to sleep, but this kid had 40 touchdowns, 4 interceptions in 2023. In his 2 years at LSU, 6,725 yards, completion percentage of 70.2. He had 88 total touchdowns and just 7 interceptions, 21 rushing touchdowns, and he cleaned up the sack issue that he had coming out of his junior year. By the time he got to his last season, he cleaned up the sack issue as well, cut the number in half. So this kid is dynamic. He's definitely a major playmaker. I'm looking forward to seeing him within the division. I'm very excited to cover the NFC East this year. I think this is going to be the most exciting year for me and the Beard over here on our channel, covering the NFC East. We've been doing it since 2019, and there's been some intriguing years. 2022 was a good one for the Giants. 2019 was cool because both franchises were bringing in new quarterbacks with Daniel Jones and with Dwayne Haskins, but I think none of them is going to be able to top this year with Saquon going to the Philadelphia Eagles and, with Jayden Daniels coming in and playing quarterback for the Washington Commanders and their rebuild, who they absolutely committed to that rebuild last season when they started off in players before the trade deadline, got rid of both of their edge rushers in Chase Young and Montez Sweat, and we're just moving players left and right. This is definitely a retooled and a very revamped roster for the Washington Commanders, and I don't know if the days of the New York Giants beating up on little brother will continue, but Daniel Jones has had great success against the Washington Commanders in his career. I believe he's 5-1-1 so far against the Washington Commanders. I was at one of those games, the only game that Daniel Jones lost, and it was that Fugazi offsides call on Dexter Lawrence on the field goal, and I've told this story on the channel before where where I was jumping over the seats. I thought we had the victory, and then I had to go climb my ass back up to the top of the section and whatnot and sit back down and watch them kick the game-winning field goal with my best homie right next to me, who's a Commanders fan. So I'm definitely looking forward to the rivalry this year. But before we get off into the Giant overreactions, I'm going to do 3 quick ones and get y'all out of here at least 10 minutes before the Hard Knocks episode starts. Like I said, if you need the plug, it's attached to the stream. It's pinned. It's the pinned comment that's at the top of this one if you need the plug for the night. I'll continue to say that throughout the stream, man, just so y'all can, people that are just coming in and whatnot can at least know that they can possibly check that out. So big shout out to y'all, man. Appreciate everybody pulling up, man. Can't go without giving out a couple of shout outs to the gang, man. Giants Nation is in the building one time, and I see y'all, man. Big salute to all of y'all. We'll start with a Commanders fan one time. Kevin the PRF is in the building one time. Big shout out to Kevin, man, rocking out with us. A day one rocking out with us over here. Fryer is in the building one time. I see Sigma Surge is back in the building again, man. Big shout out to you. He says, let's go. We back at it again. I see a lot of people are excited about these Giant overreactions, coming back to surface and whatnot now that the season is upon us. And what a great way to just get us prepped and get us ready for the preseason with Hard Knocks here. 5 episodes of that, 4 more left, including the one tonight, man. It's definitely been a vibe. I see Kareem Yee is in the building, man. Big shout out to Kareem Yee. That's another day one. My homie 1T, man. Appreciate you, hosting the space before and putting out the good word that we do in this stream and whatnot. Definitely means a lot to us over here on the channel, man. Those are my bros. I talk ball with them every day. Shout out to the homies. Michael Knight is in the building one time. What's going on, fam? Hope all is well. I see Harrison Bryant in the building. John Maye is in the building. My guy Momo is in the building one time. Big shout out to Momo, man. Momo is like the most hated on Twitter, but just a great guy, man. We talk ball every day, man. Big shout out to Momo. Gregory's in here representing them Dallas Cowboys one time. I see D-Kit is in the building. Big shout out to D-Kit one time, man. And who else we got in the building? Oh, my guy, D-Illa is in the building. Hey, go subscribe to D-Illa right now, man. Great Giants content creator. Me and him was having some conversations about how some of his content not picking up the traction that he thinks it deserves, and I'm right there with him, man. This dude puts out really good content, honest opinions. I always tell people, go check out his video when Joe Shane was first hired. One of the first people that I saw that had some question marks and wasn't just, talking about all the positives when Joe Shane was hired by the New York Giants. So big shout out to the Illa one time in the building. Big Dash Nose is in the building. Big shout out to Big Dash one time. And yo, my guy Tuto is in the building one time, man. Big shout out to Tuto. I ain't seen Tuto in a while, man. The abs is still flexing. I see you, man. The #1 supporter in the Giants community one time. Let me bring a little attention to this too one time, man. Big shout out to Tuto for the $4.99 super chat. He said, massive salutes and respects to Authentic and the Beard crew and family and all diehard Giants fans across the pond. Greetings from our entire club in Italy. NYG 11-6 coming this season. Listen, man, what's the saying? From your mouth to God's ears or whatever it is, or from your lips to God's ears. Yeah, I hope that's the case. Maybe we go 11-6. That would be great. I'm not coming into the season as optimistic as you are, Tudo, but big shout out to Tudo, man. Always here showing love one time. Who else we got in the building here, man? I already saw Kevin the PRF. Jaleesa is in the building. What's going on, Jaleesa? Hope all is well. Representing them Commanders as well. Independent Outsiders in the building. What's going on, gang? Who else we got in here? The Queen Marjorie is in the building. I see you always holding us down. D Nice is in the building one time. Malcolm Banks is in the building. Big shout out to Malcolm Banks, man. He says we got Authentic in that building. Yes, sir. You know what it is, fam. Chris Peace in the building, man. Shout out to Chris Peace for getting me those tickets to that Commanders and Patriots preseason game. That's really going to be a good one. I see Giant Sing is in the building. Alex Hobson is in the building. And big shout out to my homie one time. Was chopping it up with him today. My homie D Brown in the building, man. Shout out to all of y'all, man. I appreciate y'all pulling up, rocking out with us, in the most dry time, I would say, as far as football goes in the offseason. There's still a lot of y'all in the building showing up, man. So big shout out to y'all. Let's get right into it, man, and talk about some of these Giant overreactions. I told y'all I got 3 of them today. We're going to fly through these today. A couple of these came from the comment section on Twitter that was on the video that NFL's account released today about the Giants Hard Knocks episode 2 that had Jayden Daniels in it. So I figured what a great way to prep us for tonight's episode by taking some comments that people were saying in that comment section and being able to use them as some Giant overreactions. So for those of y'all that don't know how this works, I'm going to put up a couple statements on the screen from social media. And if you agree with the statement on the screen, that means you're going to take the under. If you indeed think that the statement on the screen is a giant overreaction, I'm going to need you to put an O in the chat to represent that you are indeed saying it is an overreaction. If you need a little bit more time, which I always need more time on a couple of these, especially this early in the season, you can put a P in the chat to represent that you're going to be taking a push. And again, if you are taking the under and agree with the statement on the screen, you can put a U in the chat. So now that y'all know the rules, let's get right into it, man, and talk about our first giant overreaction. All right, y'all. So this one comes from, what's my man's name here? I don't got his name on the account, but y'all see it there. It's a little bit small on my screen. This is in reference to Jayden Daniels. He said, throw a touchdown? Come on, bro. This kid is doomed. Let me know what y'all thinking about this one. You think this is an overreaction, a little bit too early to be talking about if Jayden Daniels is doomed? Or do you agree with the statement on the screen from the homie here one time saying that this kid is doomed? Because it did look like during that interview process that Jayden Daniels was a little bit caught off guard. Like I said, though, there was a little bit of an edit there that I don't think a lot of people going to catch. But look at the middle of that clip and look when Joe Shane is laughing. And then when they cut to Jayden Daniels and you see the over-the-shoulder camera, it's a hard cut and Joe Shane is not laughing. So I'm looking forward to seeing that tonight and seeing if, you know, they kind of piece that together to create a little bit of drama for what's going on with the Hard Knocks situation here. But like I said, man, about Jayden Daniels, sleep if you want to. I know the interview process is extremely important. And what's good about this is kind of reminding me of some of those shows that used to come on ESPN back in the day. I can remember one time right before John Gruden had got hired by the Raiders, they had him doing a quarterback type of room where he would bring in all the rookie quarterbacks and whatnot and kind of test them, doing the same kind of thing that Brian Daboll was doing here with Jayden Daniels. And it reminds me of the 2018 version of that with John Gruden where, you know, back then I wasn't as quite, you know, keeping my eye on the quarterbacks coming out of college as much. I wasn't studying as much tape. I was just more of like a, you know, chill type of casual fan during that time when Patrick Mahomes was coming out. And I knew he had great arm talent, but there were some other quarterbacks in that draft that I thought were going to be selected higher than him and I thought would be better quarterbacks than him in the long run. But seeing him with John Gruden on that ESPN quarterback show, I'll never forget how sharp Patrick Mahomes was during that. And when I saw that, it definitely convinced me like, hey, this might be one of them ones right here. This might be a guy that can be a franchise quarterback for the Kansas City Chiefs. I believe they selected him at 10 and the rest is history. You're now looking at the GOAT and whatnot. But it's definitely going to be interesting. I do think that this one here on the screen is a bit of an overreaction. Give the kid some time to get his feet wet. This is just an early interview, you know, during the draft process and whatnot. I don't think we can really hold this against him. I do think it's a bit of a, you know, strike one type of blemish, maybe a foul ball off the first pitch for him. You want to see the quarterback be a little bit sharper. Brian Daboll did have him draw out the play, you know, and then switched it up on him real quickly, had him erase and switch which wide receiver was going to be, you know, on that play in particular, you got to hit the fade route or you got to hit the backside dig on that play. That is a play that does test, you know, a lot of these younger quarterbacks to see if they got what it takes in the NFL to be able to succeed. But for me, all in all, I think that one is definitely going to be an overreaction for me. Let me see how y'all feeling on this one here one time, man, and highlight a couple of y'all statements on the screen. And if you got any reasoning why, go ahead and place your reasoning if you want. Shout out to E Banks NGA in the building one time. He said big NY fan and y'all from Georgia. That's what's up, man. Big shout out to you. Appreciate you pulling up. That's my first time seeing you in the building, man. So welcome to the fan. Welcome to the gang, my bro. Sigma says he's taking a push on this one. I'm not mad at that at all. Joshua Ramos in the building says this is an overreaction. The Beard is in the building. Big shout out to the best co-host in the country, the Beard, representing our account one time in the chat. He got the O's on 1,000 here one time. He says this is an overreaction. And for those of y'all that don't know, the Beard is a Commanders fan, so y'all know he's not trying to hear none of that negative criticism about his quarterback that's not taking a snap yet. Let me see. Sigma said actually it's an overreaction for him. Forget that push. Harrison Bryant says it's a big overreaction. My homie 1T in the building says it's a push, and I blame Brian Kelly. I like that. 1T, big Notre Dame fan, not the biggest fan of Brian Kelly, I take it. Shout out to D Nice one time. He says it's an overreaction. Queen Marjorie says it's an overreaction. Gregory taking the under on this one kind of agrees with the statement on the screen. And I have seen a lot of people on social media doing the same. Literally, like right before I went on air, I heard somebody be like, come to my mentions and say, yo, Jayden Daniels is a dumbass. I'm just like, man, like the stuff that gets thrown around on social media for professional athletes is kind of wild. But I'm not not mad at Gregory taking the under. Definitely knows what it takes to win at the quarterback position. Has been at the top of our division for a long time, representing them Dallas Cowboys. Kevin the PRF said he was here to see that particular clip, and he said it's a big, fat overreaction with the laughing emoji. I'm with you on that. Kareem Yee sees it the same exact way. D. Brown says it's a massive overreaction. Yeah, and I think, like, you don't want to take it out of context. Like, you know, we're going to see a little bit more, I'm sure, tonight and kind of get a little bit more of some of the thoughts that were being thrown around that room with Jayden Daniels, but that's going to be interesting. I want to see how that looks with some of the other quarterbacks. Did they get a chance to maybe interview guys like Caleb Williams, Drake Maye, and are they going to put that in the final edit of Hard Knocks tonight? I really hope so, but I'm with D. Brown on this one. That's a massive overreaction. Shout out to Brian one time in the building. He said he's taking the under on this one. How many high picks bomb? He's little. I don't know, has bust written all over him. His frame is a little bit smaller, built, you know, with a more of a skinnier stature. He's definitely going to have to put on some pounds. He's kind of like, he looks like he's built like Jalen Hyatt a little bit, like that kind of skinnier build. But I do think that Jayden Daniels has great pocket awareness. He can escape from the pocket like we've maybe never seen. He's not just a quarterback coming out of college that is a one-read quarterback. This dude can do it on multiple levels, and he can do it with multiple reads. I don't think he has bust written all over him. I do think that the highlights that stand out with Jayden Daniels are a lot of his running, big plays and whatnot. But he made a lot of big plays with his arm, and the dude was just a fade route king. He was killing it, and his connection with Malik Neighbors at LSU reminded me a lot of Jalen Hurts with A.J. Brown on the next level. Like, you know, if you get that one-on-one matchup, he's going to take advantage of it, and he's going to exploit it, similar to how Joe Burrow did also with Jamar Chase in Jamar Chase's rookie year. These dudes were killing people. Every time they got that one-on-one matchup on the outside with Jamar Chase, they knew that he would win. Now the big question mark comes, you know, does Washington have a guy that's going to be able to win on those one-on-one routes? We know what Terry McLaurin is. I think Terry McLaurin is one of the best route runners in the entire league. I would say top 10, possibly a top 5 route runner at this point in his career, but not really necessarily known for the big plays. And I know Washington fans are looking to get a bounce-back year from Jahan Dotson, who was a complete dud last year and dealt with injuries in his rookie season, but he did find his way into the end zone a lot. I think he had 6 touchdowns that rookie season. And, the step backwards in his sophomore season definitely gave Washington fans not a lot of confidence in his ability. So this third year for Jahan Dotson is definitely going to be a make or break for him for sure. Let me see what else we got here from y'all. I mean, the chat definitely flying. Shout out my homie Gorski in the building, man. He says, Daniel's frame looks like a quarterback I seen out of St. Catherine's. I think that's why Authentic is so high on him. I like that, man. Big shout out and big salute to the homie Frank Gorski one time, man. You know about that black and gold one time back in the day, man. That's one of my day ones right there. Big shout out to him. And one T said Big Dash knows what? Big Dash knows New York Giants football. So, yeah, I think we got some split reviews on this one here. Harrison Bryant did say he agrees with Big Dash on this one. And Big Dash says he liked RG3 too, by the way. RG3 set the league on storm that first year, and then the injuries just caught up with him, and, the rest is history. His career was kind of, non-existent after that. Really didn't even get many starts after that year. The sophomore year when he got benched, didn't really get too many starts after that. A few games here and there for the Baltimore Ravens, and that was about it. But I was a big fan of RG3 too, man. Like, that dude, that 80-yard run his rookie season was like, wow, set the league on fire. And I love seeing quarterbacks who have that extra skill set, that skill set to be able to run the ball and make big plays with their legs. So that was definitely great to see from RG3. Will we see that from Jayden Daniels? We don't know. Did take some big hits, man, in college at LSU. Y'all know the one clip that was going around where he tried to hurdle the safety and he completely got laid out. And there was a couple others where he took some big shots, got knocked out of the game versus Alabama. So his health is definitely going to be something that not only Commanders fans, but I think all fans of the NFC East and all fans of football are going to be keeping their eye on. You saw it with Anthony Richardson last year, playing that style of ball where you like to run the ball a lot. And if you can't keep teams at bay with your arm, it does, lend you into walking into injuries. And unfortunately for Anthony Richardson, he had to cut his season short. And he was looking pretty decent. I mean, the completion percentage was extremely low, but outside of that, he was playing some good ball. So we'll see. We'll see how things go. And Ray Harris says, I'm nervous about the Kingsbury offense more than his talent. I am too. Being that he is a playmaker, I do think that gives him a high floor, similar to what Kyler Murray was dealing with in Arizona when Cliff Kingsbury was over there. And, the verdict was out on Cliff Kingsbury early on in his career, dating all the way back to Kyler Murray's sophomore season, and Kyler Murray's sophomore season was still amazing. So when you got playmakers like that can find ways to buy time and extend plays, the natural knack to just be able to play football, I do think that's going to kick in. Shout out to Daboll one time. Daboll said, we're going to need Banks to tighten up the coverage on McLaurin because Daniels ain't going to miss him like Sam Howell did when McLaurin had to step on Banks. That's facts. And if you look at, I believe it was the second game against Washington, Terry McLaurin was having his way a little bit with Deontay Banks. I don't think he scored a touchdown in that game, but he was definitely pushing like 90 yards or something on 6 receptions. So still a good job for a rookie coming out there in Deontay Banks. But yeah, we're definitely expecting a little bit more out of him in his sophomore season. I'm hoping that he can step up and be that cornerback one. And last but not least on this one, Big Dash says, I wouldn't trust Kingsbury at all. And I'm right there with you. I think he can run a competent offense. It's just about, can he take them to the next level? I think that's going to be one of the big question marks for the Commanders moving forward. Like I said earlier, for those of y'all that are going to be checking out Hard Knocks tonight, if you need that plug, the plug is in the chat. It's pinned to the comment section at the top. Best of luck figuring out what I'm trying to, the game I'm trying to put down for you right now without us getting crazy demonetized or anything like that. And lastly, I see Joshua Ramos says that I wanted Daniels so bad this year. Now I got to put my blinders on. Yeah, I wanted Daniels too. I put out a video where I was reviewing a lot of his tape. And for all the Washington Commanders fans in here, if you want to take a look at, somebody just kind of going over some of his big plays, some of his highlights, and some of his lowlights, I put out a video, I want to say like about 4 or 5 months ago now, when we were first talking draft talk, at the end of the season or whatever, like when the Giants were kind of like out of playoff contention. So definitely check that one out if you're interested in seeing some more Jayden Daniels content. It's got some plays on there, some all-22 as well. Let's get into this next one, man. I got 2 more before I get y'all up out of here. We got about a good, I'm going to say 15, 20 minutes because we're not going to go all the way up to the 9 o'clock deadline like we did last show. But let's get off into this next Giant Overreaction. All right, y'all. This one is about Drake Maye, and this is from my homie Blunt Man Mark. Good dude on Twitter. I have a lot of conversations with him, man. Very reasonable, level-headed type of fan here. He says, I'm all out on Joe Shane. You can't move the goalpost every year, especially when you wholeheartedly went after Drake Maye. Hypocrite much? What I think he's leaning towards here is going after Drake Maye and then coming on Hard Knocks in episode 1 and saying that they're completely committed to Daniel Jones. And if that is the case, then why are you going out there seeking, another quarterback and possibly trying to trade up? That's what the rumors were floating around the NFL circles and whatnot. I wasn't as high on Drake Maye as I was on Jayden Daniels. I'm more of a fan of the dual threat type of quarterbacks, big fan of guys like Cam Newton. I'm a huge fan of guys like Mike Vick. Even some of the dual threat type of guys today that we've seen, guys like Anthony Richardson out there, guys like Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen probably being the best dual threat quarterback in the entire NFL. I won't say he's the best running quarterback, but when it comes to a combination of being able to run the ball and throw the ball, Josh Allen is just lights out. And to me, that guy deserves a little bit more respect. I know he doesn't got the Super Bowl, but you got to blame the GOAT or GOAT Jr., Patrick Mahomes, on that for the reason why Josh Allen don't got one. But I do think that Drake Maye, possesses some of those similar characteristics, the big body frame. He's got a natural body as far as the quarterback position goes. He's got the prototype type of build. I think that New England is extremely happy to have him in the building. He went third to New England, and a lot of people were speculating that the Giants might jump up and trade to go out there and get Drake Maye. They ended up also drafting Joe Milton out of Tennessee in the 6th round. Kind of reminds me of the plan that the Washington Commanders had in 2012, I believe that was, with RG3 and Kirk Cousins. They got Jacoby Brissett over there on a 1-year deal, $8 million. I feel like the New England Patriots are doing it the right way. This is how you draft a quarterback, develop him. You don't have to put the pressure on him, week 1, year 1 to be the starter. Bring in a bridge quarterback costing you $8 million who has a similar kind of productivity as some of these quarterbacks getting paid much more money than that. Jacoby Brissett last year didn't get a lot of PT with the Commanders, but when he came in both those games, rallied the Commanders back. I want to say they were down by at least 21 points in both of those games, and he rallied them back. I want to say one game was 2 touchdowns, the other game was 3 touchdowns. I like where the New England Patriots are, setting up the foundation for Drake Maye to come in here. They drafted 2 rookie wide receivers that were extremely high on my radar, Jalen Polk and Javon Baker out of UCF, who raw talent. This guy can definitely be one of them ones. They reassured their offensive line by, solidifying a contract with Mike Onwenu, who a lot of Giants fans wanted to bring him in. I thought that was absolutely not going to be a possibility, and the New England Patriots would be foolish to let a guy like that go in his prime. I thought that would have been crazy, and that's why I had my eyes on Jermaine Illuminor, and so did the New York Giants. And they went out there and signed him to a 2-year, $14 million deal. But the question that's going to get answered tonight about this whole Drake Maye situation is, did the Giants even make a, reasonable offer to try to come up and, get Drake Maye at the overall selection at number 3? And my gut tells me they didn't. A little bit of that might have been some smoke. I've been saying this since, the offseason began and dating all the way back to last season, that Joe Schoen is just the kind of guy that's going to tell it to you like it is. And he said when he was on the Chris Sims podcast, shout out to D Kit, who really brought that podcast to my attention. Me and him were having a debate on Twitter Spaces one day, and he was like, look, check this out, man. And I went and I checked out that interview, and Joe Schoen was pretty much saying, like, look, we're going to address quarterback and free agency, pretty much definitely. And he said we're going to address all the other positions in the draft, including quarterback, if we have to look at that. Now, when it came time for the draft, it seemed like the Giants didn't have their eyes set on just pulling the trigger on any quarterback, because at 6, there were still a lot of guys left on the board. 3 of the 6 top quarterbacks were still there for us. J.J. McCarthy was still there. Michael Penix was still there. And you could have, reached on a guy like Bo Nix, who ended up going to the Denver Broncos as well. So for me, tonight is going to be extremely important, regarding this topic here, because I think we're going to get a little bit more insight on what's going on with how much commitment did the New York Giants, spend on a guy like Drake Maye, and how much time did they actually spend trying to bring a guy like that in. As far as this statement on the screen, I'm not all out on Joe Schoen, so I can't agree with that right there. I do think that this is a bit of an overreaction. I would take the push a little bit on this, because I do think that, like, there's a portion of this that is a bit fugazi from Joe Schoen, saying that, hey, we're committed to this quarterback. He always said in the offseason the expectation is to have Daniel Jones be the starter if he was healthy. But then, like, why are you looking at quarterbacks year in and year out? And talked about this last episode about my homie Jabri bringing it to our attention that Joe Schoen said something like along the lines of, when these guys become free agents, we'll have, all the necessary scouting and information on these guys to be able to try to bring them in then. But if these guys are franchise quarterbacks, they won't be free agents. So you can just, kiss that dream goodbye. For me, though, I'm going to go ahead and say this one is an overreaction before I look at the chat. But I do think there's some truth to it. But maybe the part about being all out on Joe Schoen is just a little bit of a giant overreaction for sure. Let me see what we got here. Okay, so I'll start with the beard here. Let me get this one from Brian first. Brian says, let me know when he throws for more than 24 touchdowns in only 12 games like our guy did as a rookie. Yeah, Daniel Jones' rookie year showed a lot of promise. I definitely thought that. And as far as Drake Maye and Jayden Daniels, I think that they can only hope but have as good of a year as Daniel Jones did his rookie year, minus the turnovers. I think that was the biggest red flag we saw. And in return, trying to correct those turnovers really put Daniel Jones in a rock and a hard place, not being able to just play freely and fearlessly when he was out there on the field, dating all the way back from 2020 to current, to present day. Daniel Jones has been the same quarterback now for 4 seasons, and that's a guy that doesn't really threaten secondaries, doesn't threaten safeties with his arm, and he's going to take what's underneath. In 2022, we saw a guy that didn't turn the ball over, and I thought that was a really good thing, and that was the only difference between the other 4 seasons from Daniel Jones outside of his rookie year. But, yeah, 24 touchdowns in 12 games is a great rookie year. Him and the year before that, Baker Mayfield, both had great rookie seasons, and, Justin Herbert is another one that had a really good rookie season, and you can only hope, if you're a Commanders fan, that Jayden Daniels can have that kind of success. My homie The Beard says drafting Maye this year would have been Daniel Jones all over again. I don't agree with that because Daniel Jones never played high-level football in college. And if you look at Drake Maye's, just look at the stats. You could just look at box scores from Drake Maye and some of those games that he was putting up, especially in 2022. My God, the dude was lighting it up. I think from an arm talent perspective, Drake Maye is just he's in a different class as far as arm talent goes. And that's not to say that Daniel Jones doesn't have any arm talent. I think he has pretty good arm talent, pretty average arm talent, enough to be able to succeed in the NFL. But with Drake Maye, I just see better characteristics. Can miss the read and make the throw in tight windows better than Daniel Jones, I feel like, as well. And the bigger body stature, I think he's got a better skill set to kind of shake defenders off of him within the pocket. And the pocket presence, I think, is just much better than what we see from Daniel Jones. But I think, people look at him, big body, white boy quarterback, kind of can think, oh, we can compare him, and that's kind of the same thing. Marjorie agrees with what the beard is saying. Sigma says, I think it's more of adapting to what's in front of you for Joe Schoen. He exhausted his options and then pivoted when Maye wasn't on site, giving this an overreaction. Yeah, I'm with you on that one, too. Shout out to Nova Nebula in the building one time. What's going on, fam? Hope all is well. Jason Ma is in the building. He says, is there any hope for Evan Neal? I can't see it. I don't got much hope for Evan Neal. Last year, I was all in on, rooting for Evan Neal and giving him, proper opportunity. He hasn't started in that many games, and the injuries has definitely been an issue. We got to clean that up for him as well so we can get a proper evaluation. But I'm hoping for the best, but I'm absolutely prepared for the worst with Evan Neal. I think that going into minicamp this offseason too, and having Jermaine Illuminor take snaps at left guard, that could come back to really haunt us if that's how they plan on going to the regular season, with Evan Neal at right tackle and Jermaine Illuminor playing the left guard position. Jermaine Illuminor just 11 snaps at left guard. I want to say just over 500 snaps in his entire career at the guard position, period. Just 5 starts at guard and has over 2,200 snaps at the right tackle position. All of his PFF grades are much higher when he's playing right tackle. I don't understand what Joe Schoen and them are doing, but I will trust it. And simply for this fact is that we hired Carmen Brasillo, who is the offensive line coach, former offensive line coach for the Las Vegas Raiders, and he was over there with Jermaine Illuminor. So I think he knows, how Jermaine Illuminor can fit within this offensive line unit and, his capabilities. And maybe he has the faith in him to play the left guard position, but I really hope that they pivot and they don't wait until it's too late to be able to move Jermaine Illuminor to the right tackle position. I think that could be an egregious mistake. But shout out to Jason M.A. in the building one time, rocking out with us, man. Let me see what else we got. Dude, D Brown says, I wasn't into Maye. The Giants need to go against the grain of their status quo. And if you know D Brown and you listen to D Brown on some of these Twitter spaces, you know exactly what he's talking about. And those are the kind of topics that I'm not afraid to speak about over here on Authentic in the Beard. We call it like we see it. We talk about all the topics. And what D Brown is talking about is bringing in African-American quarterbacks. The Giants have never drafted an African-American quarterback. I want to say Anthony Wright was the first quarterback to start a game, a black quarterback to start a game for the New York Giants. After he left Dallas, I can't remember when that was. It was like the mid 2010s maybe, or something like that, maybe like early 2010s. And then Tyrod Taylor coming in here, and obviously Geno Smith got a start when we ended the streak for Eli Manning's consecutive game streak of starts, which was just so weird. I mean, like, to end his streak there, and I think Eli should have maybe just, swallowed his pride and, just started the first halves of those games, because we were out of playoff contention at that point in time. And I hate to see that streak be compromised by just a one-game start from Geno Smith. And it really just spiraled the front office out of control, man. And the rest is history, bad history for the New York Giants. But, yeah, I feel you, D. Brown. And I want a mobile quarterback, more importantly. I'm not somebody that really cares about the ethnicity of the quarterback, but it's more the style of play for the quarterback position. And the way that the New York Giants tend to shy away from guys who have that raw talent, that raw ability to be able to extend plays and run the ball, and kind of just go for the traditional over 6'2" type of quarterback prototype builds that we've seen in the past. But I think the Giants are struggling also to figure out the quarterback position, because they had Eli Manning there as an Iron Man for so long, and now they're treading water in new territory. But shout out to you, D. Brown. I think that's a good point, man, and I always talk about that stuff. Harrison Bryant says he's taking the push. I wasn't in love with the idea of getting Maye, but I definitely agree with the drafting of a quarterback high and letting him sit for a year instead of Daniel Jones going out for another prove-it year. I'm right there with you, and for me, I never wanted to trade up to get Drake Maye. I would have taken Drake Maye if he was, there at the 6th position for the New York Giants, and shout out to my homie Real Mace Black, who thought that's exactly what was going to happen, and it just didn't happen. Unfortunately, the Patriots took Drake Maye off the board, and I think if it wasn't the Patriots, they would have traded out and probably allowed another team to jump up. We know that the Atlanta Falcons wanted to jump up, and they're supposed to get off into some of that tonight on this Hard Knocks episode. They did show that in the first trailer that was released, where Joe Schoen was on the phone during draft night, and he spoke to one of the executives or the general manager with the Atlanta Falcons, and they were talking about trading up. And there were rumors about the Falcons wanting to trade trade up to get Michael Penix. They ended up getting him at 8th overall, which to me was a great selection. I think a lot of people looked at it sideways. I wanted to draft Michael Penix at the 6th position and then go wide receiver in the 2nd round. It was a deep wide receiver class, and plenty of wide receivers were still available, not only in the 2nd round, but in the 3rd round, in the 4th round, and even later. Guys like Malik Washington out of Virginia, plenty of 2nd round talent. Javon Baker was out there. You saw Troy Franklin, who I was extremely high on, go to the Denver Broncos. I think in the 3rd or the 4th round, he was another guy flying around late. So wide receiver talent was there. But I am with you on that I just didn't want to trade up to go out there and get Drake Maye, because I thought that if the Giants were going to draft a rookie quarterback, they might have been able to throw him to the Wolves this year with Daniel Jones still on contract and having a $69 million dead cap hit if they would have tried to cut him. So I think you could have maybe started Jones a couple of games and pivoted to the rookie as soon as possible. Shout out to James Williams in the building one time. What's going on, fam? Who else we got up in here? Malcolm Banks. Markham. I think it's Markham. I might be saying that wrong. Upgraded wide receiver, upgraded quarterback priorities. Yeah, I know. It's very interesting. And this is another year they're doubling down on trying to put the weapons around Jones. I'm not as egregiously mad at it like I was with Dave Gettleman, who, tried to throw a Hail Mary there at the end and just try to throw all these wide receivers in the mix. And that didn't work with Daniel Jones either. But I'm okay with bringing in a playmaker. I don't think Daniel Jones is the future. And I think that playmaker will pay dividends for another quarterback down the road. If things go left for Daniel Jones for the remainder of his time here in New York or the remainder of his contract. Let me see what else we got here. Peter's in the building. What's going on, Peter? Another good folks from Twitter. Let me see who else we got. Kareem Yee says it's an overreaction. I think the drafting a quarterback was a smokescreen since they didn't get any in the draft. Yeah, I think it was a smokescreen as well, man. I'm right there with you. Deilla says it's an overreaction as well. My man BT is in the building one time. BT be having them fire tweets, man. I've been using BT tweets for, these giant overreactions a ton. He says he's out on Shane as well. And I think, you guys are going to be ahead of the curve as far as being out on Shane. I'm somewhere in the middle of this. I think that after this season, I'm going to have a really good assessment, seeing how some of these moves that he did in free agency with the offensive line and how some of these draft picks pan out. Like, this is a make or break year for Joe Shane. And I'm not saying that like he'll be fired or on the hot seat entering 2025, but your draft class, from 2022 and 2023, they got to start panning out, man. Like, Wan'Dale Robinson has been a good player, but for it to look good for Joe Shane, you're going to have to take that leap. Evan Neal, you're going to have to take that leap. Some of these depth pieces that he drafted on the offensive line, in particular the guys out of UNC, Marcus McKeith and Joshua Zidu, these guys are going to have to show that they can be serviceable linemen. Like, I went back and I saw Joshua Zidu against the Miami Dolphins, and it was like one of the poorest performances I've ever seen from a tackle in the NFL. And we got to see, a good chunk of Eric Flowers and Nate Solder, but seeing Marcus McKeith and Joshua Zidu out there, like, man, it was just bad offensive line after bad offensive line play with the both of them. And I blame Shane for not taking accountability on that. I talked about that last episode. And I clipped that up and put that on Twitter, and, mixed reviews on that. Not a lot of people are really feeling that. Shout out to BBU in the building. What's going on? Net football as well. All right, let's get scrolled up and caught up here, man, and we'll get to this last giant overreaction before I get y'all up out of here. And again, for those of y'all that are just tuning in, if you need the plug for the night, the plug is pinned to the top of this stream in the comment section. Do what you got to do, to see what you got to see. That's how I'm going to put that out there for y'all, man. And, as a guy who's very media savvy, I try to connect the dots and try to be, one of my homies actually told me back in the day, one of my best homies, my sandbox homie, he told me, man, you are the kind of person that connects the bridges to authentic stuff. And I try to do that, even if I got to put myself on the line to do that. So, yeah, if you need the plug, it's in the comment section. Do what you got to do. If you're over there on Twitter watching, come over here to YouTube and tap in, man. Y'all know what it is. And shout out to all of y'all for pulling up, rocking out with these streams, man, in the offseason. I know, this is like definitely the driest time. It's the driest time of football. And the people that are probably in this chat right here are probably all just diehard, like the true diehard Giants fans who cannot wait for this season to start. And this hard knock situation tonight is definitely going to help that. And speaking of my homie BT, I got to shout him out because this next overreaction is going to be featuring my homie BT Giants. Let me know what y'all think about this next giant overreaction. So this one comes from the homie BT Giants, man. Great podcast over there when he's not too busy doing his acting during his day job. My man been in a couple of movies, man. Big shout out to BT, man, doing big things, man. I support you, brother. I wish you well. You know what it is. Hopefully they don't attack you on Twitter when they see this one up here. BT says, it's too bad Brian Daboll won't be here for the next quarterback. And I saw that one floating around today, thinking about Coach Daboll, and it really, put things into perspective for me. Let me know if y'all think this one is an overreaction in the comments here by putting an O in the chat. And if you agree with the statement on the screen, let me see you put a U in the chat representing the under. You can also put a P in the chat to represent you taking the push on this one, which I'm going to think about doing here as I kind of break this down. But Brian Daboll, he did overachieve in 2022, Coach of the Year, did his thing, man. I think, not a lot of people thought the New York Giants were going to be a team that was going to even have a winning record, let alone be in the playoffs, and then let alone win a playoff game. So big shout out to Brian Daboll, man. I think he did a great job in 2022 as a first-time head coach at that, man. A lot of people are saying on Twitter that he's probably better served as a offensive coordinator, being the way that he just handles relationships and, his demeanor on the field. And I do think there's a little bit of truth to that. Brian Daboll, a couple of, explosions on the sidelines that we've seen, throwing clipboards, yelling at linemen, yelling at Tyrod Taylor for checking out of the pass play on the goal line and going to a run. Then we end up losing the game to the Buffalo Bills on the last play on a little tight end look-in to Darren Waller that ended up being incomplete. But I do like what I've seen out of Brian Daboll so far. I do think that Maye is extremely patient with this, particular regime as well. And I think these guys probably got an extra year from what anybody thinks. The two previous coaching staffs fired pretty early within 2 years. I don't think that, a guy like John Maye is going to go out here and try to fire another coach, because I think that then he'll be putting himself under the microscope for the fan base to attack him. And I don't want to see John Maye throwing trash cans, in the suite anymore. I'm trying to see him be a happy man and get the New York Giants back to winning. So I do think there'll be a little bit of patience. You got Brian Daboll calling plays this year, taking things into his own hands, and, having some accountability for what happens on the offensive side of the ball with the New York Giants, who was one of the worst offenses last year. I mean, they just played extremely terrible last year. But this is what I got to give Brian Daboll. He went out there last year to the displeasure of a lot of New York Giants fans who were looking to get a top 3 pick and draft a quarterback. And this man went on a 3-game winning streak with Tommy DeVito. And he ended up winning 6 games with Daniel Jones, Tyrod Taylor, and Tommy DeVito at quarterback. I think Daniel Jones was responsible for just the 1 win against the Arizona Cardinals. All the other wins came, at the hands of Tyrod Taylor and Tommy DeVito. And I got into a little bit of a debate here with one of, our subscribers here on the channel. They were commenting on the last video, saying that like Daniel Jones is a much better quarterback than Tyrod Taylor is. And I just don't think that's the case in present day. You can go and try to compare some of the careers and whatnot, but I don't think that's the case in present day. Now, as far as Brian Daboll being here for the next quarterback, BT, I'm going to go ahead and say I think this is an overreaction. I think he's got a long leash. Seems like he's extremely comfortable. He's comfortable at the practices. He's comfortable in the front office. He's comfortable with the general manager. I think they are a tandem that will be here for the majority of both of their tenures together. And I think this is just a bit of an overreaction. I think that Brian Daboll will be here for the next quarterback. And maybe I should have took the push, because if we go into next season with Daniel Jones, then I'm going to have to agree with BT. But I do think that the Giants are going to struggle this year a little bit, especially from the quarterback position. And I think that they'll be forced to address the quarterback position when they go into the 2025 draft. So let's see what y'all talking here. Big shout out to the homie Sal one time in the building, man. You already know you ain't have to donate to the channel. Sent in that $20 super chat one time. Sal says, my money is worth more than D-Kit's because I'm younger. I love it, man. I love that. And D-Kit coming in with the $20 super chat, man. Big shout out to D-Kit, man. Let me catch up these super chats before we get up out of here. $20 super chat from the homie D-Kit, man. I get to talk ball with D-Kit all day long. He's out there, I believe in Texas one time in Cowboys Nation. He says, just to contribute to the authentic efforts, man. Yeah, I try to keep it real over here, man. You know what it is. And I appreciate both of y'all supporting the channel. And big shout out to Joseph Clark, man. One of the day ones over here, man. Had a great conversation with Joe after one of the Giants games. I want to say that was the rookie season of Authentic in the Beard. That we had that conversation with Joseph Clark where we brought him on to the stream, man. So big shout out to you, man. He says, I'm enjoying Hard Knocks and always will enjoy your show, man. Big shout out to y'all for supporting the channel, man. That definitely means a whole lot, man. And that's cool seeing Sal try to one-up D-Kit. I think you had to add another cent to that, though, Sal, if you was trying to, one-up D-Kit one time. In 1999, $19.99 should have been upgraded to a $20 flat one time. Oh, D-Kid, you having competitions now. D-Kid said, I see you and take use. Wait, he says, I see you and take you, Sal. I think there might be a typo on that, but nonetheless, D-Kid is shooting some shots at the homie Sal one time, man. They going at it one time. Big shout out to my homies, man. We talk ball every day, man, and I think that these two dudes especially, they make me a more knowledgeable New York Giants fan, man. So big shout out to y'all. We got about 10 minutes before the episode tonight starts. Episode 2, Hard Knocks, 9 p.m. on HBO, also streaming on Max. If you need the plug is pinned to the top of this stream. Go ahead and do what you got to do, man, so you can see what you got to see. Tell them Authentic sent you. Definitely trying to plug y'all, man, and get y'all right so everybody can enjoy this, how I'm going to enjoy this, man. I'm going to be recording some clips. Check me out on Twitter. It's @Authentic. I'll definitely be posting some highlights from the show tonight. I'm looking forward to this, man. I want to know what y'all are looking forward to most. For me, it's the Brian Daboll lens. I just want to see this from Brian Daboll's perspective. I want to see how he talks to some of these young players coming into this draft and just the process. I hope we get some of the scouting stuff that Art Stapleton was talking about, and I hope we just get, that inside information. A lot of people kind of have this perception that Hard Knocks is just a bunch of stuff for TV, and I think that they kind of defied that in the first episode. I hope they up the ante on this this next episode here tonight, man. I'm definitely looking forward to it. But big shout out to all of y'all, man, for pulling up, rocking out. My man Juice already trying to one up the gang. These are all folks that I'm in the group chat with, man. I appreciate y'all rocking out with me today, man. Juice says, for when you get sued. Big shout out to Juice. Listen, man, I'm just here connecting dots, man. I'm not posting none of this stuff out here. I'm not streaming none of this stuff. Just wanted to have y'all show up, be able to have a safe space to share your Giants thoughts before the Hard Knocks episode 2 comes on tonight. Big shout out to Juice, though, man. Juice, another one, that knows ball, knows New York Giants football, man, and we all talk ball every day. Another person that I'm grateful for. Can't wait to meet up with all y'all dudes at one of these games and get to really talk in person about some Giants football and whatnot, and talk about some of the extracurricular activities that we know we're going to engage in, that we're going to get Sal to engage in too. Shout out to 1T one time. Y'all already know what it is, man, with the loudest pack in the building. So we got about 8 more minutes before this episode starts, man. Before we get off into it, man, I just want y'all to go out there, enjoy this. This is great to have our team under this microscope. I can remember 2019, 2020, where a lot of content creators, when I would go on their shows and talk ball with them and talk about how I would love to see the New York Giants on Hard Knocks. This was the in-season version. They were all like, nah, I don't want that, that kind of lens on my team. I don't want to, have all that extra media and all that extra press. They was acting like they was coaches for the team. And I'm not no coach. I want to see as much content as I can possibly see for my favorite team in the New York Giants, man. But with that said, man, that's going to do it for us over here at Authentic and The Beard, man. Big shout out to all of y'all for tuning into the best division in football, the Giant Overreaction, man. The only podcast where, you ain't got to worry about Authentic playing mascot one time, and I'm going to just keep it funky with y'all and just tell it like it is. Again, for those of y'all that didn't get a chance to check out the Talking Giants episode where they featured all the content creators, that was a really good one. Sal's on that one. I'm on that one. KB's on that one. Diggy, a bunch of others are on that. New York Revival. Go check that out. Go tell them I sent you, man. And just enjoy this show tonight, and hop on Twitter. We're going to be having conversations, I'm sure, after this. I don't know if the spaces will be getting kicked off tonight or not. But again, man, I appreciate all of y'all spending your Tuesday night with me and just kind of killing some time before we get off into this, this Giants Hard Knocks episode and whatnot. Episode 2. So after tonight, we got 3 more. I'm looking forward to it, man. The lines are blowing up, man. Somebody said the shirt is dope. That's season 1 Authentic. Shout out to my homie Keenan one time who printed this up, did this graphic for us here at Authentic and the Beard. But again, man, y'all know how we end every episode over here at Authentic and the Beard. Keep raising that bar. Keep living those dreams, because the universe flows in Technicolor and surround sound. And a life without dreams is black and white, man. Y'all know what it is. Rest in peace to the podcast GOAT, Combat Jack one time. And that's a wrap, man. Y'all enjoy this Hard Knocks episode like I am, and we'll chop it up on another Giant Overreaction. I'll definitely be here on Monday. Who knows, man? I've been talking to the homies about going live every day until the season starts. And that's what we might do. So y'all know what it is. One last time, if you need the plug is pinned to the comment section. Do what you got to do, man. I'll catch y'all on the next podcast. Y'all be good, man. Peace.
don't care.